Dear all, welcome to everybody. We are really delighted to start now our side event at the 33rd International Co-ordinating Council of the Man and the Biosphere Programme, the future of monitoring, the potential of digital geomedia for sustainable development in biosphere reserves. So before we start with the opening by Shamila, I want to give some technical comments. So there is French and Spanish translation available, so you can go to the bottom of the your Zoom meeting, and then you will find translations. So you can enable translation into French and Spanish, and the floor will be in English. And this side event will be consisting of two parts. So in the first part, we have keynote speakers, and in the second part, we will have an interactive discussion. And for this discussion, we already invite you to answer the discussion questions. You can scan this QR code, or you can follow the link that will be provided in the chat. And you can also send your questions and comments through the Q&A. And with this, I really welcome you again to this side event. And I give the floor to our Assistant Director General for Natural Sciences to UNESCO, Shamila Adewoye.
Thank you very much, Martha, and good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you from across the world. I bring you greetings from UNESCO, United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization based here in Paris. At the outset, let me say welcome to all of you, and I thank you all very much for joining us here today. We have an important event ahead of us with the multitude of specialists in the field, and I look forward to their speeches, their sharing their thoughts and ideas about the future of monitoring the potential of digital geomedia for sustainable development in biosphere reserves. I thank you very much for joining this side event at the 33rd session of the Man and the Biosphere Council meeting, which is being held online in hybrid format with colleagues based in Abuja, hosted by the government of Nigeria. Before I continue, let me say that I want to thank my dear colleagues, Martha Vogel, Yasmin Zufeti, Miriam Bouamran, and Nolene Raondri, and all their support for organizing this 33rd session of the Man and the Biosphere Council meeting. It is an important event and milestone event hosted by the African continent, but also because of the events we see recently concerning the role of biodiversity for our well-being, for human prosperity, for planet prosperity, and for One Health. So, Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, we have put together a very ambitious agenda with specialists and experts in the field from across the world. And I want to sincerely thank Professor Sigmund, Ms. Gensila Indensisa, Dr. Ralph Adewoye, and as well as Dr. Sabrina Gree, the moderator Nico Zanetta, and all of you here for joining us today. This event, as I indicated, is a joint event at the 33rd International Co-ordinating Council of the Man and the Biosphere Programme, which is organized by the UNESCO MAB Secretariat and the UNESCO Chair on World Heritage and Biosphere Reserve Observation and Education of the Heidelberg University of Education in Germany. I thank you dearly for this partnership. This event focuses on the future of monitoring. What is the potential of digital geomedia for sustainable development in biosphere reserves? And our experts will be able to share with us their first-hand experience in the use of digital geomedia for monitoring biodiversity. Excellencies, distinguished delegates, ladies and gentlemen, this year 21 is still shaped by the COVID-19 pandemic. We have seen some 10 days ago, the IUCN in Marseille that marked a standing point with a manifesto to mobilize the world across to take a stand on protection of biodiversity and the future of our planet. We have again a virtual council meeting taking place in Abuja. And this side event is also virtual in a year when we celebrate the 50th anniversary of the MAB Programme. Currently, we have 714 biosphere reserves in 129 countries. And tomorrow, the MAB-ICC will even nominate more sites, and the numbers will increase. The sites show solutions for sustainable development that are needed to build a sustainable new normal and a future for our future generations. In this light, it is more important than ever to continuously monitor the progress that is made in the sites towards sustainable development. The UNESCO MAB Secretariat is working on a new data management system that will result in an interactive web page, including a map with key information of all the sites across the world. For this, the data campaign is still ongoing, and I appeal to all of you to join in this data campaign. The database will track the contribution of the MAB, the Biosphere Reserves, to advance sustainable development in general, and biodiversity and climate change global agenda in particular, monitoring, of course, the local solutions and how the local communities are protecting their heritage. This side event will highlight the benefits from available technologies, the latest science, technology and innovation, particularly GeoMedia, such as satellite data to monitor changes in biosphere reserves in a holistic manner. The aim of the side event is to give insights about the use of digital GeoMedia for sustainable planning, monitoring, for communication, and environmental awareness raising, education in biosphere reserves. And also the aim is to discuss with you about the needs at local level and to seek local solutions for global challenges. I am therefore delighted that this side event of the MAB-ICC is a joint event by the UNESCO MAB Secretariat and the UNESCO Chair on World Heritage and Biosphere Reserve Observation and Education of the Heidelberg University of Education in Germany. Such collaborations are necessary to further advance sustainable development in the future. It's also important to promote the collaborations between the biosphere reserves and to share best practices and methodologies. And this is the aim also of this event, is to identify ways in which we could collaborate and promote the twining, sharing of data, best practices between biosphere reserves across the world in a true manner of networking. This year marks an important milestone, as I mentioned earlier, the 50th anniversary for the UNESCO MAB Programme. We will all work together with our biosphere reserves, with our designated sites, to set an example in the path towards sustainable development, economic development in harmony with and for nature. I thank you for your participation. I look forward to a very active discussion with you, and I sincerely thank you for sharing with us your expertise in this important event today, monitoring our biodiversity for the future of societies. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Shamila, for these kind words and highlighting the importance of this event. So now I remind you that you can please answer the discussion questions and send your questions to the Q&A so that we can have a really interactive discussion. And the link is also provided in the chat. I'm now very delighted to start with our first keynote speaker on the usefulness of digital geomedia for monitoring and first insights from the National Needs Assessment. So we have here Professor Alexander Siegmund, who's the chairholder for this UNESCO Chair, and Lisa Dunwolf, who is a PhD student in his research group. You have the floor.
Thank you, Marta, for the kind invitation and for letting me share the screen. So warm welcome from my side, from Heidelberg University of Education. As mentioned before, I'm the chairholder of the UNESCO Chair on Observation and Education on World Heritage and Biosphere Reserves, and that is our main focus. We are focusing on the potentials on the use of digital GeoMedia for sustainable planning, monitoring, communication, and education in biosphere reserves. Let's say something about our chair, if I can switch my slide. Perfect, now it's working. So it's, as mentioned, the UNESCO Chair on Observation and Education of World Heritage and Biosphere Reserves, but not just related to UNESCO sites, also to other natural heritage and other sites. And the profile of the chair is the use of modern geoinformation technologies, as well as geoecological laboratory methods for the analysis, communication, and sustainable development of UNESCO sites. To set up the UNESCO Chair, it was supported not just by UNESCO itself, but also by ESA, by the MAB Programme, by the German Space Administration, but also by IUCN and ICOMOS, which are important participants in all the discussions about World Heritage and Biosphere Reserves, as you better know than me. We have three structural bases for our UNESCO Chair. We have in Heidelberg the so-called GIS station, the Center of Competence for Digital Geomedia. We have the GECO Lab, the Competence Center for Geoecological Space Exploration. And we have the just newly built up Heidelberg Center Education for Sustainable Development. And as you know, education is a basic skill to develop all different kinds of sustainable development. Three different target methods we are facing too in our UNESCO Chair based on digital geomedia is remote sensing, so the use of satellite images, but also aerial photos, drone images, and things like that. The other slot is about geoinformation system, GIS, so all kind of spatial data which can be produced, provided, analyzed, visualized for different questions. And the third slot are the mobile geo tools like GPS-based apps, educaching, where we combine mobile geo tools with educational approaches. So these are the three main fields of focus in our UNESCO Chair, and all these three focal methods and data have a high potential also for Biosphere Reserve. I want to focus now a little bit more on remote sensing as one of these three focus points, and you can see in this slide that the number of data available from the space, from satellite, is impressively increasing in the last years, starting with Landsat 1 and Landsat 2 in the early 1970s, driven by USGS. But after a while, at least after the break of the change to the new millennium, the amount of data which are available, many of them are available for free, is increasing rapidly. As you can see now, and the Copernicus program, which is a program driven by European Commission, is a new program driven by European Commission, as mentioned before, and all the data from all the different satellites are totally free. So all the data are free to use it for any purpose you want to use, even for commercial use. It's free. You can use all the data and all the huge amount of products which are developed based on that data. And I just want to give you a little introduction or insight about the potentials of satellite data and the development. It's not just the development of the number of satellites, Earth observation satellites, but also the spatial resolution has increased rapidly. As you can see, Landsat 1 in 1972, the spatial resolution of 1 pixel was 60 by 60 meters. So a football stadium maybe is covered by 5 or 6 pixels. You can see you don't see much details, you just see rough structures. But then from 1984 on, Landsat 5, Spot, ICOMOS, QuickBird, and in the newest time also WorldView is delivering much more detailed information, as you can see here on this row of pictures, where you can see the stadium in the very bottom, QuickBird data with a spatial resolution of 0.6 meter, and WorldView even has an even more higher spatial resolution. If this does not help, there's still the use of drones, as you can see here on the left side. The picture of our DGA drone and some structures you can see on the left-hand side by Google Earth, and right-hand side by our drone. It's some vegetation structure in the Atacama Desert. But it's not just that the spatial resolution has increased in the last time. We have a temporal resolution of data which is increasing. So on the one hand side, we have now archives with 40 or almost 50 years of data from one and the same place. So for monitoring issues, it's perfect to use these satellite data. Here, this example of Las Vegas in the United States, you can see the development of the city. and in the newest satellite data, delivering such data every day, maybe every week at least. So you have a high spatial resolution of the data you need to monitor for planning issues, for communication and education. In addition, as you can see here, also the spectral resolution of the data has increased. So it's not just that the satellite looks on the Earth like with a human eye, a visible image, but you have also channels, wavelengths, where the human's eyes are not able to visualize, to see it, but the satellite sees it. So, for example, for vegetation issues, the near infrared is a very important wavelengths to detect, for example, vitality of plants. As you can see in these two pictures on the right-hand side, you see the trees in the visual channel, but then on the right-hand side in the infrared channel, where you can see, for example, illnesses of vegetation and things like that. So just want to say, my take-home message is huge amount of potentials by the different kind of satellite data which are available. And this is just an example what you can do out of this data. This is a time series for a deforestation in the Amazonas between 2000 and 2019, just on the visual bands of the satellite. And you can see the rapid increasing amount of deforestation in this area, so non-sustainable development. And on the left-hand side, you can see the reasons for that. So it's the use of the wood, of the forest. It's intensive agriculture. That's why this change has been happening in the last 20 years. And here you can see one of our drone. It's a DJI drone, and it's just a little short film, a short presentation, who gives you some insight about this very new modern technology you can use on site. So the technique itself is quite simple. It's in the meanwhile, it's quite cheap to buy your own drone, and also some programs, some tools are on the market to analyze these tools. And I just want to give you a short introduction by this little film about how this works. This is just a little impression about the use of modern drones. And yeah, sustainable development is one of the major targets of biosphere reserves. And for sure, you know the 17 sustainable development goals. And this is just an example how satellite data or remote sensing data in general can help to face the challenges on the different SDG. For example, zero hunger. The Sentinel data can help to make forecasts based on food security, or Sentinel-3 and other of these satellite of this Copernicus program. You have huge amount of different products and data about atmospheric research, atmospheric monitoring of clouds, of water vapor, of different tracing gases in the atmosphere. Sentinel-2, it's a major satellite to make land use, land cover classification, to monitor, to analyze the habitats, forest cover, for example, land degradation. And these are just some examples where modern geotechnology, in this case, modern remote sensing, Earth observation data and products can help on the management on biosphere reserves for the sustainable development, the monitoring, the analysis of the sites and their surrounding. But we did a needs assessment on the national level on the first hint in Germany. What kind of data and what kind of GeoMedia are used in the different sites, World Heritage, but also biosphere reserves and geoparks. And as you can see here, Some of the sites already use this modern geotechnology, most of them using GIS methods, so digital data in different tools. But quite a few of them are just using remote sensing data and mobile geo tools. And if we go more deeper in the use of remote sensing data, as you can see on the right-hand side now, most of the sites are just using the official governmental aerial photos, just on a visual basis. So they have the aerial photos of the sites and they make visual analysis, but there's often not the use of modern technology, modern data, like from satellite images, like from drones and others. And this is a big potential, which is not used, not just in Germany, but the idea is also that it's not used that way. It could be used on the international level. And that's why we are now planning to make an international needs assessment. So same questions and same aspects will be sent out to you. Hopefully you're participating and give us an insight in your knowledge, in your needs, and the potentials for modern geotechnology on the site development on your different sites. To fill this gap between the potentials of modern geotechnology like remote sensing, Earth observation, and others, and the demands on of the sites, we developed a program. It's called From Space to Place. So training UNESCO site managers, authorities, people who work on the UNESCO sites in Copernicus data analysis for monitoring sustainable development of cultural, natural, world heritage, but also biosphere reserves. So we want to fill the gap between the satellite data, the technology, which is there, the applications and the needs of the sites. And this is just the last slide, Marta, about this e-learning platform we have developed specifically for UNESCO site authorities and managers to get an introduction in the use of modern geotechnology, in the use of satellite data. And we want to welcome you and to use this site. As you can see here, the link, geospective.de. The slides will be available, so you can have a look later on the slides. That's from my side. Thank you for your attention. If you have some questions, maybe later on in the discussion, we can talk about that. Thank you.
Yes, thanks a lot, Alexander, for giving this presentation. So we will just continue with the next speaker now. And I'm really happy to announce that Ralph Adewoye will talk, and he's joining from Nigeria today, and he's the lead scientist of remote sensing and the tropical ecosystem modeling group. And he is the head of the Department of Environmental Modeling and Biometrics at the Forestry Research Institute of Nigeria. So I'm happy to announce that Ralph will give the next keynote on the use of satellite data for monitoring forest ecosystem changes. So Ralph, you have the floor. Dear Ralph, you can unmute yourself now.
Okay. Can you hear me now? Can
Yes.
you hear me? Good morning, everybody. Yeah. My name is Ralph Adewoye. Thank you, Alexander, because you have done most of the job that I ought to do. Are we all together?
Yes, perfect.
Thank you, Alexander, because you have done most of what I ought to do, and you have done the primary work of monitoring forest ecosystem. You have shared the types of data, satellite data that could be used in monitoring forest ecosystem with us, and it has gone deeper than I expected. So my work is simply to share my idea or what my experience as a remote sensing analyst in tropical forest ecosystem monitoring. What is forest ecosystem? It's a natural woodland unit consisting of both the biotic and abiotic. And what do we monitor in forest ecosystem? What do we use remote sensing of forest ecosystem? What do we monitor? Here in Nigeria, we monitor forest cover so that we can have a plan. We know how much of our forest is degraded, and we can have we can submit to the IPCC for the RED++ program. We use remote sensing to do ecosystem function and then natural capital. The type of remote sensing data and sources, Alexander shared some part, but here in Africa, especially in the tropical world, we depend so much on the USGS Landsat time series and the Moody's time series, and currently the European Space Agency Copernicus data, because they have so much of pool of data at 10-meter resolution. It's good to monitor. It's easier for us to use in monitoring forest ecosystem. What's the future? We talk about the future. For tropical world, what's the future for us? The future of remote sensing is purely cloud-based. The basic problem we have is that we have so much of satellite data available now, but downloading internet, poor internet was one of the basic problems we have in developed world. But the cloud-based is a system that allowed all the archive satellite to be stored in archive in the cloud. Not only that, it allowed us to tax the system and run the system without having so much of memory in our computer. So I quickly share two of the cloud-based that I am familiar with and I'm used to. The first one is SEPA.io, System for Earth Observation, Data Access Process Analysis for Land Monitoring Unit monitoring. It's a system set up by FAO and the Norwegian government, sponsored by the Norwegian government. It has pools of virtually all the freely available data sets in it, and it's we call it remote sensing for dummy. Anybody can analyze data, analyze remote sensing data from SEPA.io. It's just simple SEPA.io, and one has to register and then logged in and tax Landsat data, Sentinel data for change analysis, for temporal analysis, for near real-time analysis. That's what SEPA.io do. The second one is more complex, is Google Earth Engine, which is coming up now, which is fast gaining ground. The Google Earth Engine too is cloud-based. It has petabytes of satellite data that is embedded in it. Its cloud is run by JavaScript and Python script. This is a screenshot of SEPA.io that I earlier mentioned. And this is a screenshot of some of the things we've done here on SEPA.io on Lake Chad ecosystem. I quickly shared some of our research summaries that we've performed based on the two platforms. The first one is purely GIS issue that we try to delineate the forest, locate the status of the Nigerian forest protected area, the protected area in Nigeria. As at 1965, the protected area in Nigeria was just 650, but today, as at today, that's year 2020, we have 327, meaning that all protected area have been degraded at alarming rate. And we have submitted this to government and making an effort to reestablish some of this protected area. Back to GIS, using ANSYN 2020 data, there's a global high resolution forest cover. We did a bit of analysis of the Nigerian forest cover for year 2020, from 2000 and 2020. And from analysis, we discovered that forest cover, Nigerian Lost currently has 105,807 square kilometers of forest cover, losing over 14,297 forest cover during the same year, with forest gain of 584. If you look closely, the northern belt of Nigeria is actually denuded and actually with very few vegetation cover. In support of Biosphere, the Biopark project, we did some analysis last year, which we're continuing this year. We did analysis of Lake Chad. We did based on FAO ecosystems grading. We delineated the Lake Chad into water, reeds, tree cover, irrigated and inundated, and archipelagos. From year 2000 to year 2020, the water has decreased from 6.25% to less than 18% in year 2020. So it's virtually the forest cover, the vegetation cover, and the inundated. There's a trend of decrease because the Lake Chad is decreased at alarming rate, and it's one of the reasons for the strife, for the conflicts within that region. The same thing we decide to do a little bit of ecosystem mapping for the whole Northeast states, that's comprising 6 states across the Nigerian sphere, where the Lake Chad River, the Nguru Adija, flowed through from Bauchi up to Maiduguri, up to Lake Chad. And we discovered, but in those times, we discovered that the water's ecosystem in that region has reduced from 6.78% from year 2000 to 3.13%, basically because of deforestation, along the waterline that leads into Lake Chad. What's our current research? We're currently going into some bit of mapping oil palm expansion in Nigeria, lowland rainforest. We're redelineating Nigerian protected areas, and we are into Lake Chad. We still continue the Lake Chad ecosystem modeling. Thanks for listening.
Dear Ralph, thank you very much for this useful insights, and really to see how in practice in Nigeria you work with remote sensing data to observe changes in biosphere reserves and also in ecosystems. So thanks for your presentation. So now we will go to the next speaker, and I'm happy to announce that it is Dr. Sabrina Gree, and she is a professor at the National Museum of National History in Paris in France, but she's also head and director of the Sebotili Chimpanzee Project, and she will talk with us about great apes monitoring and development of a habitat monitoring protocol for Africa. So Sabrina, you have the floor. Dear Sabrina, you have to unmute yourself. Perfect.
Can you hear me now? Yes. So good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me to this very interesting webinar. I'm very pleased to be here with you everywhere in the world, especially in Nigeria. So yes, I will introduce a project we are starting together with Noéline Raoundry in order to try to build a network between Biosphere Reserves to develop habitat monitoring for great apes. I'm working as a professor at the Museum of Natural History, as you said, and I work with my husband, who is also co-directing the Sebotili Chimpanzee project. So first of all, I would like to remind why, from my point of view, tropical forests are very important to preserve and to monitor. So first of all, for the ecosystem services that they are giving to 1.6 billion of people, and of course for the entire planet in order to mitigate the climate change. And also, of course, because they are biodiversity hotspots, reminding you that 50% of the world vertebrate species and 60% of the world plant species are present in tropical forest. And they are also home of great apes, our closest relatives. However, because of the rapid destruction of the tropical forest, we have to react and react in emergency, especially because the main reason for the destruction of tropical forests are intensive agricultural expansion. And for this reason, we may have a solution to present, and at least the monitoring of the tropical forest destruction can help us to find out what will be a way to preserve both the tropical forest and the great apes. So for this reason, we would like to develop a project which might help to protect both tropical forests and great apes, because we think great apes are emblematic and charismatic species which can help to preserve the entire ecosystem. So the reason for protecting them is not only because they are our closest relative and very special species to our own species. They are unique for this reason, of course, but they are also a way to preserve these biodiversity hotspots, which are the tropical forest. In addition, of course, the 7 species of great apes in Asia and Africa are very endangered. They are placed on the red list of IUCN, and they are also supposed not to be traded because they are on Annex 1 of the CITES. However, they are threatened by habitat loss. So, of course, as you have now understand, the tropical forest, but also they are threatened by poaching, not only for meat, but also there are still a huge commercial trade of young individuals. And disease is one of the major threats also, especially because they are close to human beings, and zoonosis can be transmitted rapidly. And armed conflict and civil war are another reason for expanding this threat. So for this reason, we aim at monitoring the ape habitat. However, we meet a lot of challenges when we want to monitor the tropical forest and ape on ground census, for example, because they are living in vast and remote areas. We are meeting technical, financial, and human constraints. And there is also different risks because in this area there are illegal activities, there are a lot of human-wildlife conflict, and the COVID-19 is showing us the risk related to disease and how human but also other species can be threatened by such ground activities. So for this reason, UNESCO has been listing the sites which are home of great apes and tried to establish a network, which was done very recently, between the African Biosphere Reserves, which are habitat for great apes. And today, those 19 Biosphere Reserves are part of a new network, and the aim is to equip the team with drone and also to try to build a scientific protocol in order to make efficient the monitoring of great ape habitat. So together with our team at the museum and at the Bitoli Chimpanzee Project, which is based in Uganda, we have proposed this program, which meets also the aim of my team, because we would like to find a way to reinforce research, of course, but conservation of great apes also, with local actors and within the protected area, but also outside the protected area. Just to remind that we proposed this motion at IUCN Congress. It was voted in November 2020, and last week in Marseille, in France, we have started to build such a network with local actors, so which can be also a way to implement this program and to enlarge after the Biosphere Reserve will have started it. What could we be doing with this program? So first, we aim at monitoring the forest feeding attractive areas as we do on ground, but we can do it from air. So that is monitoring the feeding tree species for apes. But we can also monitor the attractive areas, which are sometimes not surveyed. This will be helpful not only for research but also for ecotourism to guide the tourists in the attractive area, will help to better locate the apes. And of course, we can also focus our monitoring on such area to prevent their degradation and to reduce poaching, especially in this area, which are attractive to great apes. This is also a way to monitor outside of the protected area, for example, the agricultural patch and patches, which could attract great apes and increase human-wildlife conflict. And we may also try to monitor really the great ape behavior through nest or maybe also through direct observation with drone. And of course, this gives us a better idea of the biodiversity and other large mammals or animals, vertebrates, which can share the same habitat. Just to show you a few images from the recent pilot survey we did in August of this year. This is one of a way to monitor, for example, the trees which are feeding apes. And for example, we can score. This is a ficus tree, a fig tree, and we can score the fruit status and have a repeated survey in order to better know what is the behavior of great apes. Of course, monitoring elephants or other birds like the crane here. And we could also try to better understand the behavior of chimp. In this case, it was an easy way to monitor them because the tree was in an open area. And we can, for example, check the vertical distribution or the horizontal distribution. You can see here different chimp. So in order to know how the hierarchy is acting to explain the distribution in a tree. As I said, it's also a way to monitor the chimps or the other apes when they are crop feeding. You can see here many chimp in a maize field, and in order to discuss and also prevent such problem with farmers. Another interesting area is really to monitor the habitat integrity and connectivity, especially to monitor the area of particular interest, for example, regrowth process or corridor. Also to try to monitor the land tenure and different illegal activity. We could also use this way to plan forest management, for example, in order to avoid opening trails and reduce forest degradation. We could use drone to monitor some area and, for example, avoid large degradation. It is the same for planning, for example, opening new trail system for ecotourism. So find a better location for the grid system. Here again, some example of the different issues that you can monitor with a drone. So here we are at the border of Kibale National Park, and you can see some of the features which are trying to help farmers to prevent elephant and green tapes incursion into their field. So for example, they are having guarding huts, they have trenches to prevent chimps and elephant to cross, and they also use bee fences to prevent elephant to go to maize field. And drones are a way to locate and then to monitor how such measures are efficient or not. You can here see better the bee fences. And also a way to check if there is no path, for example, no tree or no trail of elephant which are crossing the trench, and which may be a conflict increase with local farmers. Of course, it is also a way to check and with automatic flight, try to see the maturity of such area. So here you have tea culture, which act as a buffer zone, or chili culture, but you may also have other crops which are very attracting, and we should plan automatic flight to be able to detect when such areas are available for wildlife to come. And this is also, for example, the case of a maize field, which is flowering very near from the forest and which may be destructed by wildlife. Another interesting point is the way to monitor also the type of agriculture. And here you can see, for example, maize field, which is used under organic practices, and here with pesticides. And you can also very easily monitor the difference of the two types of agriculture, and in case of wildlife feeding on it, prevent or at least follow and monitor pollution, which can be risky for the health. So in short, there is some advantage that I already underlined, and of course, one very interesting advantage is the repeatability and the fact that we can work across region and compare the different areas. The fact that the cost is reduced compared to other aerial flight with, for example, ULM, and the fact that human resources may be reduced, and for example, persons who are physically handicapped or not really trained to walk long distance can be involved and employed in such a project. Of course, there are many limitations, like flying regulation according to the different countries, the weather, which are constraints according to season, and of course also some ethical issue, in particular make sure that there is no privacy violation and no spying which can be suspected. Then this program aims to be conducted for 10 years period. So of course, this means there is a lot of coordination and update to be planned for the entire program. In conclusion, the pilot survey that we did last month was very fruitful, and we could at least confirm some of our expectation. With automatic flight, drones are really a great tool for botanical survey and would allow a better management of biosphere reserve. There is also a way to survey agriculture to mitigate human-wildlife conflict, and of course also a very good tool for communication and sensitization. This program, which aims at sharing practices, knowledge and solution for a sustainable future, is in my way a great suggestion from UNESCO, and I'm very pleased to be part of it. And I would like to thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Sabrina, for sharing this news about this exciting project, and yeah, congratulations that you can build up this project. It will help a lot to better monitor these habitats. So now I'm really happy to announce our last keynote speaker, and it's Zinile Nidisa. She did a master in conservation ecology and is an ASA program participant, and she's also a MAB volunteer in Eswatini. And she will give us some insights from UNESCO sites, potential and barriers for the use of digital geomedia. So I'm happy to give you the floor now, Zinile.
Thank you, Martha. I will just share my Hi, thank you, Martha. I'm excited to be part of this awesome discussion and to be amongst experts in the field. I am Zinile Nidisa. I am a volunteer for the MAB Eswatini and also an ASA program participant. Digital geomedia can significantly support the work of UNESCO stakeholders. The digital data offers potentials in monitoring, documenting, planning, and mediation of UNESCO sites. To support this, the UNESCO Chair on World Heritage Site and Biosphere Observation and Education is conducting a general needs assessment with UNESCO sites stakeholders. We further conducted a qualitative stakeholder consultations with UNESCO site managers in Africa, Asia, Europe, just to gain insights, in-depth insights into the relevance, challenges, and potentials of digital geomedia tools and applications in monitoring of UNESCO sites. In the following slides, I'll be presenting the results from the consultations with these UNESCO stakeholders. The first case study is Waterberg Biosphere Reserve in South Africa. It was designated as a UNESCO site in 2001, and it is an area of about 654,033 hectares. Waterberg Biosphere Reserve is managed by the non-profit company, and it works with a single employee and a varying number of volunteers. What is worth noting from this interview with the Waterberg Biosphere Reserve site manager is that they realized that there is a need for capacity development in digital geomedia. However, they would like to secure resources in order to bring in postgraduate students to help with site-specific GIS-related projects. Most importantly, through funding, they want to provide training for stakeholders within the Biosphere Reserve. The second case study is a Lubombo Biosphere Reserve in Eswatini. The Lubombo Biosphere Reserve is the first biosphere reserve in Eswatini, and it was recently designated as a UNESCO site in 2019. It covers an area of about 294,020 hectares. Eswatini, the Lubombo Biosphere Reserve is managed by Eswatini National Trust Commission, which has about 2 employees working in the Lubombo Biosphere Reserve. Even though they have a fully fledged GIS unit that has been using these digital media tools to create maps for conservation management, they fear that they have not fully exploited the potentials of digital tools and their uses. The Lubombo Biosphere Reserve needs capacity enhancement in digital media field. Our third case study was the Cologne Cathedral in Germany. This is a World Heritage Site that was designated in 1996 as a UNESCO site. The cathedral is 15,738 meters tall, and it is managed by the Archdiocese of Cologne with around 100 employees. What is critically important for the Cologne Cathedral is communication with the public through environmental education. They believe it is important to raise awareness on how damages to the building materials is inflicted by environmental pollution. Environmental education is important for the preservation of the cathedral. Furthermore, the cathedral uses drones to detect damages on the building at an early stage for better monitoring of the building. Our last interview was with the Kulao Cham Hoan Biosphere Reserve in Vietnam. The Kulao Cham Hoan Biosphere Reserve is located in the middle of Vietnam with a total area of 33,475 hectares. It was designated as a UNESCO site in May 2009. It is managed by a board of Kulao Cham Hoan Biosphere Reserve under Hoan People's Committee. The main highlights from the Kulao Cham Hoan Biosphere Reserve were that they've been using remote sensing applications such as ArcGIS. However, they have a limited staff adept for this field, and there is also limited training offers to recent technology. Moreover, monitoring is mainly focused on forest and terrestrial ecosystems. It is limited for coral reef ecosystems. So the conclusion from these 4 case studies is that there are different challenges that come with the use of digital geomedia at UNESCO sites. To get a worldwide overview of what is needed to promote the use of these, to get a worldwide overview of what is needed to promote the use of digital geomedia, the UNESCO Chair is obtaining a general needs assessment. The general needs assessment is an ongoing exercise. So we hope to collect data from UNESCO site stakeholders in World Heritage Sites, Biosphere Reserves, and geoparks that will inform on the knowledge and usage of digital geomedia, especially remote sensing. The data will also inform on the demands and interest in training. The assessment is important for the UNESCO Chair because it will assist in creating training offers that are adapted to the needs of UNESCO stakeholders. So we encourage that you may participate in this general needs assessment. And these general needs assessments and the stakeholder consultations were done in collaboration with the ASA program. The ASA program is an international exchange program that is offered by the Engagement Global on behalf of the German Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development. This scholarship program offers sustainable development seminars and projects in collaboration with partner institutions from Germany and a country in Africa, Asia, Latin America, and Southeast Europe. Through the ASA program, the Heidelberg University of Education in Germany engaged a team of young people from Germany, Vietnam, and Eswatini in sustainable activities. The Heidelberg project is titled Capacity Developments Towards the 2030 Agenda. Development of advanced training offers in the field of digital geomedia. This project supports the UN Sustainable Development Goal number 4 in quality education through the capacity development offers. Also, it supports the implementation of the UN Sustainable Goal number 17 through collaboration with international partners and all of those partnerships. The objectives of the project are for the young people to get an overview of learning offers in Heidelberg, but also to carry out, for the young people to carry out needs assessments to develop e-learning services for UNESCO stakeholders with consideration of the identified requirements. Also to get an overview of digital geomedia tools such as remote sensing, and lastly, to conduct UNESCO sites is UNESCO stakeholders consultations to access the potential use of digital geomedia. This work was conducted through support and collaboration of this amazing team of young people from diverse academic backgrounds, from countries such as Vietnam, Eswatini, and Germany. It is worth acknowledging our amazing and supportive coordinators from Heidelberg, Lisa and Nico. In conclusion, to get a better understanding of the situation in different biosphere reserves and UNESCO sites around the world, we would like to encourage all of you to take part in questionnaires so that we can make a global general needs assessment. Also, if you are interested in becoming an other project or having other scholars work at a UNESCO site for a few months, we encourage that you get in touch with us and check out the official other website. If you have contact with UNESCO stakeholders, please feel free to contact me. And if you have any questions about the presentation, please feel free to ask them now. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Senil, for sharing your experience and for this really refreshing presentation. So now with this, the floor is open for your questions, and I will hand over to Nico and Lisa now for the discussion and the use of digital geomedia at university and on the ground. And as I want to remind you that you can directly scan this QR code and reply to our discussion questions that we prepared, and also send the questions to the Q&A directly for our speakers, or related to the discussion topic on the use of digital geomedia at university and on the ground.
Thank you, Marta. Okay, today we had an intensive and tight program where we had the opportunity to dive into the applicability of digital geomedias in the context of UNESCO sites. First, and after a warm welcome from Shamila Ner-Bouduel, UNESCO Assistant Director, Professor Dr. Alexander Sigmund, UNESCO Chair on World Heritage and Biosphere Reserves, Observation and Education from the Heidelberg University of Education, presented us on the usefulness of digital geomedias for monitoring, and he showed us the first insight from the German needs assessment. Dr. Ralph Adewoye, head of the Environmental Modeling and Biometrics Department, Forestry Research Institute of Nigeria, was in charge of the second presentation today. We learned through some study cases the applicability of satellite imagery for monitoring change in forest ecosystem in Nigeria. The third presentation today was given by Dr. Sabrina Gree, professor at the National Museum of Natural History in Paris, France, who present a unique and novel way to monitoring great apes habitat using drones in Africa. Finally, Sinile and Sinisa, as a program participant and MAB Eswatini volunteer, presented an insight into 4 UNESCO sites. We were able to know from their managers the potentials and barriers in using digital geomedias. Next, Lisa Dunbolt, Research Associate and ASA Program Coordinator 2021 at the Heidelberg University of Education, will show us the result of the small survey that we did during this day. We will be able to deepen in some questions and queries that you have included in the Q&A option. Thank you, Lisa.
Yeah, thank you, Nico, and thanks everyone for the attention and for your feedback already in the chat and in the survey. So you can still vote in the survey, and I will share my screen and we will together have a look on the results we already gained. So we wanted to know what kind of group do we have in that side event, and therefore we asked, where do you guys come from? And as you can see in this word cloud, we're basically from all over the world. We have people from Chile, the Republic of Korea, Vietnam, Germany, the United Arab Emirates, and we're very happy that we reached such a great audience.
Lisa, can you share your screen? We don't see it.
I'm sorry, I just mentioned it. So hopefully now you can see it. Okay, so as I said before, we have people from all over the world, and then we wanted to know who do you represent? So are you a Biosphere Reserve Manager or MAB focal point, or do you represent an MAB committee, or do you maybe support some other institution like universities or stuff? So you can see the group is very diverse, and that makes it that vital and interesting to talk to you guys. And then our main focus is, of course, on digital geomedia, and we wanted to know what kind of digital geomedia you use in your daily working routine. And as you can see, how the rates are moving. We have several people working in remote sensing and GIS systems, which is very, very good, and offers huge opportunities to work together and connect with each other. And we can also see that some sites or some biosphere reserve do not have digital geomedia knowledge or do not use it yet. So this is also a huge potential to collaborate and to get together on very interesting projects. And of course, the UNESCO Chair in Heidelberg is always open to that. So feel free to contact us on those topics. Then we wanted to know how much time should a possible training course in GeoMedia cover? And I think it's quite obvious that many people would be looking for a course that takes up 2 or 3 days, and to get more into those topics and to get a deep insight in GeoMedia or in the several categories. Then we wanted to know, because we're working in an international field and environment, what is the best training offer for you? And that's quite diverse, I think. E-learning offers huge potentials to reach many, many people. So it's always a good way to go. But of course, face-to-face trainings are also an option we should not miss. And then basically the most interesting part for us is what are the main limitations in using GeoMedia in your site or in your biosphere reserve or your daily working routine. And we have several answers like expertise, knowledge. Then we have things like money and hardware, which is always a problem. And some technical issues, of course, and even capacity development or capacity building. So that's a point where we're very interested in working with you and your stakeholders. And then our last question was, what are the main opportunities in the use of GeoMedia in your working routine? And many people answered that it would improve their monitoring and make it more efficient and make it possible to monitor large areas. And you also could think of using GeoMedia in the topic of tourism, which is also interesting for the visibility of your site or your biosphere reserve. So I think there's a lot of interesting points, and there could be very, very interesting projects in the future, and we're looking forward to that. And now we are open for a couple of questions if you have some. And from my side, thank you for your attention, and let's start the discussion.
Dear Lisa, thank you very much for preparing this. It's quite interesting insight. So we have some questions in the Q&A. So the first question will be: the technology of the use of remote sensing is very important, but what will happen to us who have no expertise in digital geomedia, and how will our biosphere reserve going to be assisted? So this is one question, and I also already say the second question is to Professor Siegmund about the spatial resolution of satellite images. Do you believe that 30 meters and 10 minutes is enough to analyze the process of natural resource governance? So maybe we can try first focus on the first question. So how to have assistance in biosphere reserve to use digital geomedia?
Maybe I can give some answers to the one and the other question, maybe added to someone else, or what's the idea, Marta?
Yes, so Sabrina also started to prepare answers. So Sabrina, I could give you the floor to answer, and then also Alexander, you can complement.
Yes, about the first question, we are planning 2 sessions of training for the manager of Biosphere Reserve for use of drone and technical aspects in order to build the network. So the first session is supposed to be early 2022, and the second a bit later in the year. So this will be a face-to-face meeting with a training in Sebitoli area, so Kibale National Park in Uganda. So we hope that COVID will enable us to do it, but this is what is planned for now.
Thank you very much. So Alexander.
Yeah, just a general remark. So when I did my studies, remote sensing digital GeoMedia was on the very beginning, it was rocket science. But nowadays it's not anymore. The technique is developed, it's affordable. Many of the data are free, as said in my talk. All the Copernicus data, all the Sentinel data, terabyte of data every day is available for free all over the world. So it's accessible to all of you. The only thing is you know some basic knowledge, and also this is possible to learn. You know, at our university, Heidelberg University of Education, we are regularly doing courses with pupils in school, 7th, 8th, 10th grade, and their teachers. And at the end of half a day, they are able to make a first analysis of a satellite image. And what is able to do it with pupils, it's also able to do it with you. You have not to be an IT expert or not to be a remote sensing expert or GIS expert to use the potential of this modern geotechnology. And therefore, we have developed different programs. We have set up an e-learning platform, Space to Place, which is on the special use for adults, for stakeholders of UNESCO, different kind of UNESCO sites, to get some insight, some first steps in the analysis of remote sensing data, for example, and this will be developed further for other topics. And in parallel to that, we are developing blended learning programs where we want to start with a summer school next year here in Heidelberg, and then some blended learning aspects, so distance learning, face-to-face, to help you to get an introduction in the basis of the use of modern geotechnology. And in the end, you will see after some days you are able to do some basic things. So it's just a question of doing it, of the motivation. It's not a question of the technology and the costs, not at all today, because many things are on the market already. And there's a specific question, maybe I can directly answer, because it's about the spatial resolution of data. So 30-meter resolution or 10-meter resolution of most of the freely available data, for example, Sentinel-2, it's normally enough for let's say spatial sites like biosphere reserves. If you have a small church or something like that to analyze, maybe the resolution is not enough. But if you have a space, some hectares or square kilometers of a site like biosphere reserves normally are, a 30-meter resolution for the most of the applications is more than enough, and even 10-meter is enough to analyze, for example, the structure of forests, deforestation, other issues. So normally 10 meters or 30 meters sounds to be rough or not very detailed, but at the end, you know, it depends on the question you have, on the applied questions. But normally this is enough to make land use changes, to analyze land use changes, to analyze land cover and things like that. Yeah, just to answer that question quite detailed.
Thank you very much, Alexander. There's another question in the Q&A. I think it's directed to Sabrina. Will the training be limited to biosphere reserve managers or also someone who works in biosphere reserves and the work involves drones and mapping?
So for now, the idea was to train the manager of the Biosphere Reserve, and then they could, in their turn, transfer the knowledge and capacities that they have learned by themselves. So the idea is also maybe to add e-learning and a session with video conference with some other experts. So that's how it can maybe help to touch more people.
And also to answer the other question which is mentioned, it's our capacity development programs and programs are open to all. So not just the managers of biosphere reserves, but all people who are involved in the use of modern or could be involved in the use of modern geotechnology, geodata. We are looking forward to receive you in our different programs.
Thank you very much, Alexander. That also reflects well the question on capacity building. Do we have an opportunity where young people can get a career path in digital media, like being enrolled into master degree in remote sensing? So for this, I think it's directly referring to what you said. So it's possible to get this education. And I also wanted to highlight that just in we have in ERA-IF, the Category 2 UNESCO Center, which just launched a master program on biosphere reserve management. And it's the first master program on the African continent on this. And then we have also here in this session, Uli Grebner, and they also just launched even a master program on biosphere reserve management. So there's more and more education ongoing. And I wanted to ask also the question, maybe back to the audience. So often it's also a problem of getting access to this information. So researchers or like universities, they do all this work, but maybe biosphere reserves, they don't have the capacity to reach out to all of them or to get an overview into scientific literature, what is done. So how can we make this access easier for biosphere reserves to get this information which is already done, or what would be quite easy? Some questions could be answered easily by researchers, but how can we make this link?
You know, at the end, if you're addressing me, at the end, our program from space to place is just about that. As someone who is working on a biosphere reserve, you don't have the time to go to all the scientific literature. That's what we are doing, because we are scientists. We work on different issues on digital geomedia, GIS, remote sensing, and things like that. And we try to translate, let's say, and transform this knowledge to an applied basis. So people who work on an applied level or want to work on an applied level with this digital geomedia should be able to do it easy as pupils, as I mentioned before, do it in one morning in our learning labs in Heidelberg. That's our transformation, let's say, transformation support from science to application. And this is, let's say, the heart of the Space to Place program, where we got an award from the European Commission in 2016 at the university and in the Copernicus Masters University Challenge, because this is what it's about. You need science to develop methods, but then you need to fill the gap between science and application by transformation this information on a level that different target groups need to understand what it's about.
Thank you very much, Alexander. I read out another question from the chat. I guess there are many ongoing initiatives in each UNESCO site. How do these initiatives presented today are integrated in each site? Is there any shared database for that? So yes, that is true that there are many initiatives and projects that are ongoing, and they are not necessarily all linked to each other. But I wanted to highlight that, first of all, we are building now a new database for all biosphere reserves, so that we can at least have the key information on biosphere reserves easily accessible. And then there was also just recently launched a new international network of environmental experts with support from Italy. And UNESCO will have this new UNESCO Earth Network. Maybe also Shamila can comment on that. And this will be really across all UNESCO designated sites with experts to monitor changes in biodiversity and climate change.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Martha. Would you like me to answer now? Yes. Thank you. So concerning the network, international network of experts, I'm very pleased to inform you that this was launched recently, even at the IUCN. And I want to sincerely thank the government of Italy for providing the seed funding. The aim is really to promote scientific collaboration and cooperation among the experts across the world and enable them to have tools and methods to monitor biodiversity decline, conservation, as well as restoration, and to explore new methods of restoration. So this network of biosphere experts will be able to work with each other across all of UNESCO's designated sites. We look forward to working with you, and there will be a call for offer that will be made with Miriam Boamran, who is managing this network, and we look forward to receiving your expertise also in contributing to these networks, because you will bring on board a very particular expertise which would be needed to monitor species decline. And I believe that this new way of satellite monitoring is very important and critical. Just to inform you, we have provided some drones to certain biosphere reserves, but I believe that what we've heard here today is extraordinary. This monitoring of species decline and at least empowering local populations is critical if we want them to be equal actors on board to protect and preserve, restore biodiversity. Thank you, Martha. I hope that that's okay, but if you need any further information, I guess my other colleagues are also on board. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shamila, for answering these questions. I shortly want to give the floor back to Senile. So she is really our youngest guest here in this panel. And maybe you can give some comments how you got in touch with this GeoMedia and becoming a participant of this ASA program, because it might be of interest to others.
Thank you, Martha. Well, we got in contact with this conference through the Heidelberg University, Lisa. We were hoping to
Senile, we cannot hear you any longer. Senile, we cannot hear you very well. Maybe you can close your video. Yes, I think there's a connection problem here. Maybe, Elisa, you can shortly comment on this possibility for young people.
Yeah, thank you, Marta. So it's basically our first time that we joined the ASA program. It's like Cyril presented, the main institution is an Engagement Global. It's an exchange program where you can apply for with your project idea. For example, if you want to work in the field of capacity development and digital geomedia, or you want to have young people working in your project, which is environmentally related or something like that, you can apply. And then you have a look for a partner institution in one of the countries of Latin America, Asia, Southeast Europe, and Africa, of course. And yeah, can start your project together. And basically, if there were no COVID pandemic situation right now, then the students would have their exchange. So Senile would have come to us, and we would send Doro, the other part of the team, to Eswatini. But unfortunately, that could not take place because of COVID. So now it was a completely digital mode, and yeah, it was a fantastic experience. It was very nice to work with those young people for 6 months in general, and we learned so much from each other, and I think that's a very nice experience. And if you want to know anything more about it or have more information about the whole program, feel free to contact me and Nico. We were the coordinators this year, and it's a great opportunity to have exchange around the world, basically.
Thank you, Lisa, for commenting on this. So it's unfortunate that Sinile is disappeared now due to connection issues. But I think with this, we are coming to the end of this interactive discussion. So it's good to know that there are possibilities for also young people to get in touch with researchers and to exchange and work really hands-on with these digital geomedia. And now I wanted to give the floor to Uli Gräbner, because he has an announcement for the next year's conference, which is also well in line with our topic from today. So I give the floor to Uli now, and Lisa will share the presentation.
Yeah, Marta, thank you very much. I was extremely happy to see and hear so many scientists dealing with issues of biosphere reserves, and I would be even more happy to seeing some of them live. We are planning a big science conference next year, which I want to announce here. But before I start to tell you about the plans, I would like to ask Martin Price, who is who had the idea for this conference and is helping us, supporting us in the implementation, to give you 2 words of background.
Okay, thank you, Uli. Could we have the next slide, please? Okay, yeah, so as you may know, I've been involved with the MAB program for quite a while, and this is really a little bit of context. I think the starting point is that the MAB program is an intergovernmental science program, and I think that's a really important point to make. And then in the first 2 decades or so of the program, it really was a world-leading science program. There was all sorts of collaborative, innovative, some inter and even transdisciplinary research and research capacity building going all around the world within the MAB program. But really since then, the focus has kind of shifted from the science to the sites. And it's not to say that the science doesn't still continue, but there's been a much greater emphasis on the biosphere reserves and growing and maintaining the world network of biosphere reserves. But I think it's important to say there are some national scientific networks, and since 2017, there's been an international online journal for biosphere reserves. So in that context, the Lima Action Plan for 2016 to 25 mentions a couple of outcomes which I've listed here. One is to create an active and open interdisciplinary network of science who share the MAB vision and mission, and some actions within that to create the network and to develop a research and knowledge agenda. A second outcome is around research, practical learning and training opportunities to support the management of biosphere reserves and sustainable development in them. And there are also some other outcomes and actions in the Lima Action Plan that are very much around the theme of this conference. So having given a very little short background, I pass the word over to Uli. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. Can we go on with the slides? So we want to contribute to bringing science back to biosphere reserves or fostering them. And we want to organize a conference which answers questions like, which research questions are currently being investigated in biosphere reserves? What are different biosphere reserves currently doing? And that brings me to one of the questions we just answered. To give a clearer picture of what kind of science is going on and how we could link these scientific activities better and learn from each other. What has been achieved in promoting science in biosphere reserves since the Lima Action Plan that Martin just presented? And what are most effective framework conditions, concepts, and approaches to foster target-oriented research and innovation in biosphere reserves? For that, we want to organize a conference with two different target groups. One are early career scientists. So those young people actually currently working in biosphere reserves and gathering data to come together and share this data and get to know each other, interact, learn from each other. But also research managers, those people that make science in Biosphere Reserve possible or facilitated, with the aim of sharing recent scientific results, identifying opportunities, exploiting synergies and improving cooperation, and to jointly enhance research in Biosphere Reserve. Next slide, please. We are planning this very interesting conference setup where the first 2 days will be the 2 days of early career researchers coming together to present and discuss recent results, to share their experiences related to scientific work in Biosphere Reserve, but also then to discuss how was it doing science in Biosphere Reserve? Was it really the laboratories, live laboratories that we are always talking about, or was it not that easy? And with this input, we want to go back 2 days later to the managers, to science managers from funding agencies, research institutions, and from the Biosphere Reserves themselves. First of all, to provide this input to this group, but also then to, among them, share examples, best practice, and discuss on the way forward, how to strengthen science in Biosphere Reserves. In between the two parts of the conference, we will have a joint day with excursions, the whole conference, and we can go to the next slide. The whole conference will be held in a Biosphere Reserve. The Biosphere Reserve Shorefide Korean is just 50 kilometers from the capital of Germany, Berlin, northeast. The conference will take place from 16th to 20th of May in a very nice seaside resort, a holiday place, you could say, at that very nice lake that you can see here. Next slide. What we are looking for in terms of contributions, we want to get input from early career scientists on their most recent scientific work in, for, or with Biosphere Reserves. And we want to find these best practice approaches of research managers, be it funding agencies, research institutions, or the Biosphere Reserves themselves. We are extremely thankful for significant financial support from the German government, both from the federal government, from the Ministry of Environment, but also from our local state government, so that we can invite representatives, several representatives of all the UNESCO MAB regional networks, so that we really have a diverse group at the conference and not just talk in a European context, but really a global context. And we will provide further information, including how you can apply for a slot in the conference or a financing on the following two websites: Biosphere Reserves Institute /research-conference, and maybe we could put that in the chat as well for everybody, but also research-conference at hnee.de. And that was our little announcement. Thank you very much for your attention, and thank you for the organizers of this extremely interesting side event. Thanks.
Thank you, Uli and Martin, for sharing this very relevant information with us. So this will be a very useful conference. So you can put it already in your agenda for next year. And yes, we will try to put the link in the chat. Maybe Uli, you can directly do that so that you have all the information. So with this, I really thank all the speakers for their presentations and all the participants for lively discussion and posing their questions. And we will, of course, stay connected with you, and we are always happy to exchange and work together with you on improving the monitoring and biosphere reserves. And with this, I will give the closing words to Alexander Siegmund.
So thanks, Marta, for giving me the opportunity to have some closing words. You know, especially in these times, the time is characterized by technological change. It's all around. And many of these technological change is facing also biosphere reserve, often in a negative way. But modern technology and the opportunities of this technology can also be used as a benefit for biosphere reserve, for monitoring, for planning, for sustainable development, but also for communication and education issues. And I think these webinars show different examples how this modern geotechnology can be used. And these are just few examples about the potentials of the use of this digital GeoMedia on the different issues you are practicing in the different biosphere reserves. So I would just want to encourage you to get in touch with these modern technologies, because it's of big potential for you for the development, and we can and others can help you in the use by our different programs, our e-learning programs, but also face-to-face programs, which we want to develop in the near future together with you. And all your feedback, all your applications, your demands are welcome to us to make it most coherent and most near to your applications, to your needs. And yeah, that's what I want to say. I want to thank you for UNESCO for the opportunity to have this common side event. It was really appreciating for all of us in Heidelberg at Heidelberg University of Education at the UNESCO Chair there, and hope to see you soon in the next one or the other opportunity. And back to you, Marta. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for this friendly words in the end. And as UNESCO Chair, we will keep in contact and work and tackling these issues, how to make best use of modern technologies. And I will give also the floor to Shamila again. And I wish you all a very good continuously MAB-ICC. So the Congress is still continuing, and there will be also other side events. And I hope to see you online in the next meetings. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Marta, and congratulations to you for the excellent moderation of this session. My sincere congratulations to all the participants who have shared with us here today and listened to our experts. Thank you for your participation. I particularly want to thank the Heidelberg University of Education, our UNESCO chairs, Martin Price, and also Alexander Siegmund, as well as Sabrina Gree, Dr. Ralph Adewoye, Professor Sabrina Gree, Dr. Ginsile Indensiza. Thank you very much. Thank you, Nico. Thank you to all of you. This has really been a brilliant event. And we keep hearing about uniting behind the science and putting science to the service of humanity. And here we are putting science, technology, and innovation to the service of people, planet, and prosperity. We really need to unite behind the science, and we need to ensure that everybody has access to the latest developments in science, technology, and innovation. And I'm so glad to hear Martin Price say that this is an intergovernmental scientific program. And I do hope that we will put science to environmental monitoring and empower these communities in biosphere reserves to monitor their wealth, their heritage, their natural heritage, and what provides them with life today and well-being. So thank you very much to all of you. We look forward to working with you. Thank you for putting forward this exceptional conference next year, we will ensure that we mobilize over 700 or 714 biosphere reserves to date. We're hoping there'll be more that joins this network to join us in this exceptional event, Science for and within Biosphere Reserves, scientific technological research in Biosphere Reserves, for people and for planet. So looking forward to working with you, and let's put the science to work, and let's make sure that no one is left behind. So I appeal to all of you today and the experts that have shared with us your extraordinary expertise. Please ensure that no one is left behind. We need to ensure access to this scientific and technological information and knowledge streams to ensure no one is left behind, because there is no boundaries for climate change and biodiversity. What affects us here affects other parts of the world. Let's bring on board everyone and ensure no one is left behind, and everybody can participate in the latest scientific technological research to monitor Mother Earth, because there is no planet B. Thank you very much. Let's put science to work. Congratulations, Martha. Excellent session. Thank you to our distinguished panelists, our partners. Thank you to Uli, to Alexandra, to Martin Price. We look forward to working with you. Thanks to everyone. Take care, keep safe, and looking forward to welcome you home to UNESCO sometime. Thank you very much. Thanks. Bye-bye. Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Ciao, thanks from Heidelberg.
Thanks. Congratulations.